Alright, this is going to be my first Connect 4 video. If there's anything that you like or don't like, just leave comments and I'll be sure to incorporate them in future videos. Anyway, today I want to talk about what I call the Zig Zag Opening, since openings in this game don't really have names. This is the one I'm talking about. 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, 5, 5, 5, 5. Looks like a zigzag, right? I'm going to call it the Zig Zag Opening. Basically I'm going to show, this is going to be a beginner's video, I'm basically going to show some possible antes that red can play in this opening against white, which white is player 1 by the way, and red is player 2, and I'm going to show how white can counter these antes. So now that it's red's turn to play, most players here are going to play 2. They play 2 because they want to block the even that can be made. If white plays 2, he gets an even on this cell, C2. So most players would often opt to play 2 in this spot. However, I'm going to just assume that, for now, that the second player is a very weak player, and he doesn't understand why blocking this cell would be important. And I'm going to show you why it's important. So I'm going to go ahead and play 5 and continue to build on this zigzag pattern. Now, the first player, player white, has 2 options here to win. First, as I said, it's very dangerous if he gets this cell, B1. That's obviously one of the winning moves. The other winning move is this, 7. 7's a winning move because it isn't a losing move, so to speak. It's a winning move because it's a waiting move. Because if I play 7 here, then player 2 would have no choice but to play 7 on top because he wants to block the possible odd here. So it's basically a waiting move because by playing this move, I force red to play on top of me, and then I can just go back to play 2 if I want. And at the same time, I'm blocking a possible even on the right side, prevent red from making even on the right side, even though in this specific opening it does not really bear any significance. Let's assume we play this move and red plays on top, as I say, and then let's say you could stall again by playing here, and then obviously red would be forced to play here. And however, note that you cannot play on top once again, because this actually would lead to a draw. Be careful though to not fall into the trap. Most players may consider that after white plays this move, he can now make an even by playing here and undercut the possible odd up there. But actually that would bring the win back to white, because white would then be able to win on the left side. For example, if you play this move, then white would be able to play here, and you gotta block, and then he plays here, he gets 2 on the 3rd row, he makes this pattern. This is what I call the J-shaped pattern, and this pattern will guarantee that he will be able to make an odd on the 3rd row, specifically on this B3 cell. For example, red would be forced to play here, and then white can just play here, and no matter what red does now, white can make it odd. So let's say, oops, play this, and if he blocks, then he just makes one on top. So there's no way to prevent this from happening. Actually, the correct move to draw here would be to, as I say, block the even here, which I said was very important a few times already. Block the even here, then white would have no choice but to play on top to block an odd here. Notice that if he plays up here to get an odd if he tries to get an odd on the left, sorry, red has several ways to win. Most easily he could play on B2 and get a counter odd on the left, and we can tell right away from this position that actually it's no longer a draw. Red would actually be winning here with the 2nd row, because as you will see that in the case of 1 odd against 1 odd, then the first player would have to give up his odd first. So say the game continues like something like this, and then he plays like this, and then red can simply play like this if he wants. Oh, sorry, no, he plays that over here, and you gotta block, 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 and now red simply gives up the odd up here to make the even down here, and that is obviously a win. So we're gonna just skip all those technicalities and just assume that white would take the very easy way to win and simply play on 2. And to show that this is an easy win, we first note that red has no choice but to play here in order to stop an immediate threat of a win. So then red obviously plays here, and now all white has to do is build up the second row, and he can guarantee to make an odd. For example, plays here, red now has to block on the third row, because if red does anything else other than blocking the third row, say he plays up here, then white can force to make an odd by giving up this even and building up. So naturally, red has to play here. And then white plays here. Red again has no choice but to block on the 5th row, so red will play here. And now white will play on d6. He plays on d6, then he has what I call a minor odd on the c5 square. And usually, if this minor odd is on the same column as an even, so that it's supported by this even, then no matter what happens, unless there's some kind of counterattack on the other side of the board, white will be able to make his odd threat on the left. Say, we'll just play some random moves on the rest of the game. Say red wants to take the right side by playing down here, and then we'll just build this up. No other move really. And now you can see that red's out of moves. He either has to give up his own threat, or he plays on a2, which means white gets the odd here, and then the rest is obviously a very easy win. So that would explain well as to why a player has to block. The second player has to block this cell. This move, e5, is not a very good move. And in my next video, I will show you some possible antes with this move and how white can counter them.